The Bucks opened up the NBA season in Philly and walked out of there 1-0 after a 124-109 victory. Dame was on one, Giannis was efficient, and the Bucks defense made it difficult on Tyrese Maxey all night. We're going to break down key takeaways from this win on the other side of the intro.
You are Locked On Bucks, your daily Milwaukee Bucks podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What it do? Welcome to Locked On Bucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm Camille Davis. You can catch me weekly on the Technical File podcast as well as the Pack a Day podcast. Joining me is Frank Madden, founder of brewhoop.com and a longtime voice of the pod. We appreciate you for tuning in and we thank you for making Locked On Bucks your first listen every single day. We are free and available wherever you get your podcast, as well as on YouTube. Plus, you can now catch Locked On Bucks as a newsletter. Introducing Locked On Bucks Daily Newsletter, the one-stop shop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered directly to your inbox. Sign up for free now at lockedondaily.com. That's lockedondaily.com and start your day off with a free Locked On Bucks newsletter. You can also start the season with the big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. Frank, the Bucks are 1-0. Came out of Philly with the victory. Let's just start here. What or who impressed you the most in this Bucks victory?
Two guys jump to mind. I mean, we take Giannis for granted, so I'll park Giannis to the side for now. But I thought early on, I thought Brook Lopez and the rim protection, really popped, and we talked about that being a theme in the preseason as well, and being kind of one of those encouraging leading indicators. Brook at his age, how long can he still be this elite rim protector? He's in an expiring contract season, obviously. There's always been great vibes between Brook and this franchise. You hope he stays forever. But again, for him to show up the way he did tonight, I think he started 0 for 6 from the field on offense, but did end up with 8 points, but 6 block shots, 6 assists, which is, I guess,
That part
is his career high or high in Milwaukee? One of
his
those
Bucks
two.
career high.
That was something I think last year we saw him look for, Bobby and Giannis around the basket for little dump offs, like just trying to make simple plays, little short lobs, make the easy pass. Look, he's never going to be a high level passer, but I thought I was, impressed by that kind of continuation here tonight. So even though he wasn't, shooting the ball well, he was able to still kind of keep the ball moving and be a connector in ways that, you never really think of Brook Lopez being,
Mm-hmm.
right? He's a guy that historically he gets a little bit of tunnel vision, like when he gets the ball, like he's putting a shot up. And so for him to, again, you and Justin have talked about it a little bit, like he talked about dribbling, ball handling, like trying to add to his game, even at his advanced age. And hey, if playmaking is something that he's going to be able to do a little bit better, then more power to Brook. But yeah, the defense to me was what popped, especially early. Both teams shot really poorly early on. Felt like, a rock fight in that first quarter. But the theme that kind of established was Brook just walling off the rim, making Tyrese Maxey's life in particular difficult. Maxey going 10 out of 31, I think it was. He's a guy that he's struggled when he's kind of the only guy. It's hard for him, especially when he doesn't have his 3-point shot, working. So, so big credit to Brook, I thought. And then as the course of the game rolled on, Dame, who started slowly, found his rhythm, and 6 of 12 from 3, 30 points. And really in that second quarter was when the Bucks started to get separation. And that was when Giannis was on the bench. Dame was out there with, I think it was Trent. I want to say, was it Trent, Prince, Bobby, and Brooke maybe? And they were able to, go from kind of a nip and tuck game there late first, early second quarter to putting the Bucks up double digits. And that's why Dame was a game high plus 19, I think. And Giannis was only plus 7. So, and this is one of those things, Camille. It's like, it's really hard for me to diagnose what's wrong with Dame when he's not playing well, because when he's playing well, like he just hits these stupid shots.
Right. It's the same stuff. It's just going in.
Like, he got to the rim a few times as well tonight, but was he like creating really easy looks or something like that. No, he's just, one of the best bad shot makers in the history of the league. He can pull up from anywhere and be a
Yeah.
threat, and it's just absolutely deflating if you're the other team. And man, when he's on your side, it's a whole lot of fun. And that was certainly a feeling that we felt kind of in those middle quarters in particular.
Hmm.
He just started going, and the Bucks caught fire from three. And again, double outlier game in terms of, I mean, the Sixers kind of started to make some threes as the game wore on, but I think they were 3 of 21 at one point. Bucks were like 10 out of 16 at one point. So it was a really crooked game from a 3-point differential perspective, which
Hmm.
usually that pretty much decides games like this. And so again, like, I think there's a lot, we can talk about a lot of things the Bucks can clean up. But I thought Brooks' defense and Dame's offense, to me, those were the stories of game 1 of 82.
Yeah, I think that's a really fair place to start, especially when we look at Dame, because a lot of the conversation this offseason leading into the season has been about Dame and how is he going to look. And he looked really comfortable today. I think it's also interesting that you brought up Dame and Brook first, focusing more so on Brook's defense, but giving him credit for the assist and whatnot on offense. But the chemistry between Dame and Brook is still like it looked like it's even better. It was already good last year. They look really good together offensively when they're in actions together. And for me, the thing that stood out to me was just like the movement on offense. I was like, it was refreshing just seeing them not settle for one action on a possession and running multiple actions over and over until they're able to find something that can lead to a shot more often than not. So I really enjoyed seeing that from this Bucks team. And then looking at just the stat line, like as you mentioned, we're so used to Giannis's greatness and Giannis being Giannis. The fact that Giannis only played 31 minutes tonight, 8 of 11 from the field, like the free throw shooting, you wanted to see more. He gave Philly way more free chicken than what I would like for him to give them. After he missed the first two, I'm like, okay, they get some free chicken and they're still, I'm like, how much more free
Yeah,
chicken
I was
can
like,
you get?
man, they
So
were
you
just like
already got it.
compounding the free chicken. Yeah.
Right. So
People
apparently
in
they get
Philly,
more. They got more chicken.
Giannis feeding families in Philly, but not for the reasons we'd like.
Right. Maybe he wanted some of that Chick-fil-A too before he left the city. Who
Oh,
knows? But yeah,
we
Giannis.
haven't we haven't seen the post game, but I hope that he would make a joke about that. So I guess we'll have to see if he
We're gonna have to
actually
look
did.
that one
But
up.
yeah.
But listen, Giannis and Dame became the first Bucks teammates with 25 points, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists stat line in a Bucks opener. And sometimes I look at stat lines like that and I'm like, that is just such an arbitrary. Like, how did you pull? You look okay, like, okay, cool. That's what you want to lean on. I get it. But it does point to the fact that both of them were able to have an efficient game. Although for Giannis at times it looked like it was a little difficult, but I think it was just in part because he was trying to exert his will over the fact that this was a small 76ers team. So he was looking to get to the rim early and often, and Caleb Martin didn't have many answers for him. So Giannis had himself a game too.
I mean, I think Giannis put half of the Sixers rotation in foul trouble.
Yeah, by himself.
Yabusele, who had like a couple strips. Like, I mean, that's the thing. The Sixers had like a couple, like some good last ditch defending, but
Mhm.
Giannis also had like a few. It felt like an early season game for Giannis in the sense that there were a couple times where like he should have been able to, like, he was like by a guy, and either Yabu or Martin like kind of poked it away, and like they were beat, and tack on the free throw shooting, which honestly felt like it was worse than 9 out of 16. I thought he might have been under 50% at one point. Okay, vaguely respectable. I don't know if 9 out of 16 is vaguely respectable, but yeah, I mean, Giannis is still kind of working some stuff out, but the playmaking was there. Seven assists again. I thought in the first quarter, first half in particular, it seemed like he got beat to a number of offensive rebounds by various
Mhm.
guys. And look, like when Drummond does it, it's like, Drummond's a load. He's going to do that to people. But it felt like, I don't know, it felt like everybody on the Bucks got beaten to offensive rebounds in the first half, maybe even first 3 quarters. That was really what was keeping Philly in the game. But yeah, I mean, again, like, not, we're so spoiled with Giannis. It wasn't an all-world performance from him, but he just kind of played with himself. We saw him a lot at the right elbow, catching there, guys coming around Dame, others for dribble handoffs as options, or
Mhm.
just facing up and obviously attacking the way that only Giannis can attack. So, yeah, I mean, again, like, Giannis just kind of doing early season Giannis stuff, feeling some things out. But to be 8 of 11, right? It's actually been weird. I feel like he's had a number of these games in Philly where he just doesn't take that many shots,
Mhm.
and it made more sense to me when PJ Tucker was there because PJ kind of always knew how to
Just
frustrate
humming.
Giannis.
Yeah.
This group did not have that same luck. And the Sixers, I mean, when Embiid is out, they are a really small team. I mean, even when Embiid is healthy, their 1 through 4 guys are very small. I mean, Paul George is tall. I think he's like 6'10", but obviously he's not playing like a power forward. But Caleb Martin, who has sort of been a fake power forward at times for the Heat as well. But that's a small team, and those guys, I mean, they don't want any of Giannis, right? And we saw it with Oubre, we saw it with Yabusele, we saw it with Caleb Martin. Like he was putting everybody into foul trouble just because, they're not really charge takers either, and they couldn't, I guess, wheel Kyle Lowry out soon enough to try to get in the way and take a charge. But yeah, again, like you love to see the 31 minutes is probably the best part of this Giannis performance. He had a little bit of foul trouble as well, which I thought impacted some of his defensive impact. I didn't think he had a great night defensively. He was guarding Martin too a lot, so he was out on the perimeter more probably than you'd want him to because they just didn't have big guys for him to guard. KJ Martin, he got into foul trouble like right away too.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a surprise start for KJ Martin. But yeah, kind of Giannis doing Giannis stuff and Dame doing Dame stuff. But I think what you kind of were kind of getting at as well, I think back to last year with like the Brook kind of, we've obviously talked a lot last year about everybody want to talk about Dame Giannis pick and rolls.
Of course, they're the stars.
And we saw, some of it tonight. There was that first half one where Dame gave Giannis a really nice pass and Giannis blew the layup, which how often does that happen? But I think one of the things, recurring themes again, was Brook and Dame are very good pick and roll partners because who's defending Brook? The biggest, slowest guy on the floor, right? So that's a good thing, right? Like the advantage is just going to be greater against Brook's man than against Giannis's man, especially in a game like this where like a wing is guarding Giannis most of the night.
Mm-hmm.
And Brook just, hey, you think Brook is happy? Do you think he wants to run all the way to the baseline? No, he'll set a screen, at like mid court. He doesn't even need to run all the way down the court. Like it's beautiful, right? And so he's really good at setting those really high screens, giving Dame that runway to attack. And yeah, I mean, I think it's just a nice chemistry. And I will say this: early last season, one of the few things that I think I was willing to kind of be more on Adrian Griffin's side. Like everyone was pounding, like, why don't they do more Giannis Dame pick and roll, more Giannis Dame pick and roll? And I always did like bringing Brook into a lot of pick and rolls because of, again, the differential advantage it creates.
Right.
It's not like Giannis wasn't getting enough touches or something like that. And I do think it's good to kind of weaponize Brook more. And when he's rolling, he's obviously got that free throw line push shot thing that he's ridiculously good at, or he can pop, etc. So I think variety is kind of the key here. And so, again, like people always say, just spam Giannis Dame pick and roll. Yeah, you should run Giannis Dame pick and roll. I'd say run it from different angles, run it from the side, run it from the top, etc. But I think having a real role for Brook as a screen setter is also really important because I just think it creates different kinds of angles and advantages for Dame, especially 1v1 versus with Giannis. Again, he's oftentimes not going to get the same advantage if it's a switch. And again, I don't know Giannis. I just feel like Giannis catching the ball at like the 3-point line, he just doesn't seem like he's quite as comfortable catching there versus with Chris, where he's either catching it kind of at the dotted line on a pocket pass, or he's rolling all the way to the rim for an alley-oop or something like that. So again, Giannis, even if the pick and roll chemistry is perfect, Giannis is never going to get a ton of baskets by playing with Dame, as we've always said. In a lot of ways, this is about enabling everybody else, perhaps more than those two guys in the pick and roll. But hey, on a night like this, I thought kind of things worked pretty well in general for a first game of the season, especially given how little reps we saw with them in the preseason. And, we haven't really talked about the role players much, but
we're going to get there.
Yeah. I mean, Taurean Prince, like fantastic first game for him.
Wait, hold on, Frank. Let me stop you before you get into because I want to say one Brook Lopez thing before we get to the role players. Justin, we know Justin loves the stats. He pulls up all these really unique ones. He had a stat about Brook. He said Brook Lopez joined Giannis, Kareem, and Vin Baker as the only players in Bucks history to have 6 assists and 6 blocks in the same game. So show some love for Brook there. And then let's get into the role guys as well when we come back after this break, because there's a
Mhm.
lot to break down from their performance. I think they were also a key part in why this defensive effort for the Bucks looked so good in game one. Although they had some moments and some lapses, but overall looked pretty good. So let's talk about that on the other side of this break. There's nothing quite like catching a game live. With the NBA season now in full swing, Game Time is the place to go for all of your ticketing needs. Game Time isn't just clutch for the NBA, though, or any sporting event. Game Time has tickets for all events. So if there's a show or a concert that you're interested in, Game Time will have you covered for that as well. Game Time also has this new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting your tickets to see your favorite teams play live even easier. Game Time Picks filters out all of the fluff to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets. One of my personal favorite Game Time features is being able to see the view from my seat before I buy my tickets. I like to know where I'm going to sit so I can know what to expect when I arrive. So take all of the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time Picks. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code Locked On NBA for $20 off of your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem the code Locked On NBA, LOCKEDON NBA for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time. All right, Frank, let's give some love to some of those bench players, those role guys, especially Taurean Prince and Gary Trent Jr. There's also a lot to say about Bobby Portis, I think, and Pat Connaughton, but let's start with the new guys here. Taurean Prince, Gary Trent Jr., one thing that stood out to me from those two was just how physical they were at the point of attack. Sometimes, and especially in the third quarter when the game started getting called a bit tighter, got them into some trouble, but I just enjoyed seeing them be able to muck up the game. Like, as we mentioned, they made life very difficult for Maxey. The man took 31 shots. 31 shots when the engine everybody knew was going to go through Maxey. They knew that was going to be the engine of their offense, and they made sure that they made his night difficult. Good players are going to make some shots. So when you see the final stat line, you're like, okay, well, I mean, even though he shot 31 times, you might look at the points first and be like, oh, he had 25 tonight. And then you look further like, ooh, but on 31 shots. And it's a large part of what Gary Trent Jr. and Taurean Prince were able to do on the perimeter. And then when he got to the rim, he was met by Brook Lopez or Giannis multiple times.
So, Camille, I got to say, like, Tyrese Maxey, really good player, seems like a super likable dude. Emotionally, it's very important to me to see Dame outplay Tyrese Maxey because I feel like the narrative has been so pro Tyrese Maxey because I get it. He's new, he's young, exciting. He's going to be good for a long time. And Dame, obviously, like the bar being super high for him coming into last year. And, like the numbers he put up, it's like go compare Dame's numbers against Tyrese Maxey's numbers and then compare like what the sentiment was around their seasons. It's like they're not going to, there's very little correlation, right? Especially when Embiid was out, like Maxey's efficiency tailed off pretty hard. And, you look at especially his per minute numbers, like he plays an absolute ton of minutes as well, which is, to his credit. But again, does anybody complain about Tyrese's Maxey's defense the way they complain about Dame's defense? No, like they kind of let that stuff skate by. But yeah, so I personally was very happy for narrative purposes that Dame had a really good night and Maxey had a poor night. I mean, as far as like giving credit to, Gary Trent in particular and DeLon Wright, like whatever, team effort, I think for the first game of the Gary Trent era in Milwaukee, Tyrese Maxey's like a really tough, like first guy to have to go against because he's got probably as much speed as any lead guard that you're going to have to face. And I'm very curious. I mean, not having watched Gary obviously night to night before, I am curious to see how he defends different types of players this year because a lot's going to be asked of him. And again, like like the Nate Duncan and Eric were talking about on their Outlook pod. I think Nate framed it as like, is Gary Trent kind of set up to fail, right? Just because so much is being asked of him. And Malik Beasley was the same thing last year. I think Gary's a better defender than Malik. I think he's stronger, weighs a little bit more. But again, it's going to be hard because he's going to be asked to be the lead wing defender, guard defender on a team that wants to win a championship. And that's asking a lot. So I think it's going to be interesting kind of early in the season to see like how the Bucks do kind of gang tackling a guy like Maxey. And then kind of how does it look different against Jalen Brunson, who has a very different style, plays much more of kind of a bully ball style of basketball. And then at some point we're going to see, obviously they're going to play bigger wings. And as Gary, you know, famously Gary defended LeBron early in his career in the playoffs. At some point, I think when he was in Portland there or whatever, actually, no, it must not have been Portland because he would have been in the West, but he's
Raptors days.
or was it when did they play the Lakers or something? I'm trying to remember I'm yeah, but anyway, but we'll see, right? He's going to have to face different types of guys. We're going to see like kind of what is he best suited to, where is he going to struggle. I thought it was interesting with Dame. You know, last year I felt like they pretty much just like switched stuff and were willing to concede, letting Dame be put on to guys. They were doing a lot of like show and recover with Dame tonight, which I don't know.
Not sure how sustainable that is.
Well, in the first half, it felt like they got kind of crossed up a few times, and it kind of really hurt them. I think in the second half, it was a little bit cleaner, I thought. And, you know, we've seen the Bucks under Bud do this only with like certain players, like with Kyle Korver, they would do this because Kyle just didn't have the quickness on the outside. And I think I'm trying to remember if they did this with AJ Green at all. I don't know why they would have really done with AJ Green previously, but long story short, it's, you know, it's a way to kind of avoid having to concede switches onto Dame. So we'll see if that's something that they just try to do all year or how much they kind of go away from it. But yeah, I thought it was great to see that. And again, not to kind of divert though, I think Prince in particular, like obviously the defense I think was solid from those guys. It's going to need to be solid. Prince in particular, you know, however much Chris sits games out, like Prince is going to be the guy that slots in. And especially from an offensive standpoint, I mean, what more could you have possibly asked for from Taurean Prince? I mean, and it's a little bit weird, Camille. I don't know, like, especially when you have these new players, like, and you don't really get used to them. Like, I feel like you always sort of like, as you know players more and more, you kind of build expectations of like, do I expect this is going to go in or do I not expect this to go in? And it's kind of funny. It's like, I know the stats say Gary Trent obviously is a good shooter. And I know Taurean Prince shot 39% last year. So I should have some confidence in them. But they're new. So I'm still kind of like, oh, okay. Taurean Prince just making all of his threes. Like, okay, you know, so he's not going to shoot, you know, 85% or whatever he shot tonight, 4 or 5 from 3, 6 or 7 overall. But hey, great to see them kind of come in, make shots early. You know, hopefully this is a sign that they're going to have a good start and they're feeling comfortable in the offense. And, you know, those guys are really nice pressure release valves for Giannis. And yeah, I mean, again, especially with Chris out tonight, again, hopefully not out much longer, but like Taurean Prince is important, you know, like it's important. And the one thing he's going to do is get open threes from the corners. And so for him to hit those shots, that's obviously really important. So yeah, no, it's Taurean Prince. Get that man some super slices, some strawberry shakes from Cops. Hook him up. Definitely a really nice start to his Bucks career. And yeah, I mean, certainly everything we were talking about the summer about Trent, Prince, Wright being upgrades on Pat Bev, Jay Crowder, and Malik Beasley. Like this felt like a solid proof of concept to that idea.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, on the offensive side of things, just the ball was moving pretty well for the Bucks throughout the night too. They finished with 27 assists on 43 shots as well. So you're looking like, okay, a lot of these shots are being assisted. And we look at what Prince is doing, to your point about the threes. Like what stands out to me, I think it was the third quarter where he hit 1 3 in the corner, very big expectation down. He hit another 3 in the other corner. And it was just like timely threes. You're wide open. You're knocking down your shots. I love to see it. Also love to see the energy that Bobby Portis had when he came into the game. He started off looking like Bobby of old a little bit, where it's like you're scoring some points, but the plus minus isn't plus minus in your favor right now. But as the game went on and Bobby settled in, he just looked really good in this game as well. So I want to talk a bit more about him and Pat Connaughton and the lack of young Bucks, and if that was a surprise at all, given how the preseason went for this team. So let's get into that after this. I personally love playing Prize Picks because Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. There are over 10 million users, and I understand why. So if you sign up, you get $50 instantly when you play $5. You don't even have to win to receive that $50 bonus. It is guaranteed. Prize Picks is the best way to win real money this NBA season. Which players are going to go off? Which ones aren't? Let me tell you one thing, Dame Cash for me tonight. So make your picks in less than 60 seconds and turn your sports opinions into real money all season long on Prize Picks. Prize Picks puts its members first, so all withdrawals are safe, fast, and secure. Because for me, that's my favorite part. When my picks hit, I want my money quick and I want it now. So that's what I love most about them. Make sure you download the app today and use the code LOCKEDONNBA to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. I repeat, download that app today. Use that code LOCKEDONNBA and you will get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. Prize Picks, run your game. Got to show some love to the mayor of Milwaukee, to Bobby Buckets, to a guy who, made his impact known. In the presser after the game, Doc Rivers actually credited Bobby with getting the ball moving. He was like, when Bobby came in the game, you saw the ball moving around a bit more. He kind of made that contagious for the other players on the team. Bobby finished the night 7-10 from the field, 16 points. He had 3 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. That one breakaway steal he had caught me off guard. I was like, okay, Bobby, I didn't realize you had that in the bag. So seeing Bobby get on the break was really cool. And then you have Pat Connaughton, who you look at the stat line alone, and you're like 4-9, 1-5 from 3. He hasn't been that great from 3 the last couple of years. I'm not encouraged by that, but Pat Connaughton was on the floor for some winning plays for this Bucks team. Like, he helped fuel some really positive possessions for them too. So the OG bench mob came in and they made an impact on this team.
Yeah, I mean, Bobby came in, Giannis goes to the bench, and Bobby was kind of carrying the offense there when things were kind of looking shaky on both sides in that first quarter.
I think they said it was only Bobby, Giannis, and Dame who had scored the whole first quarter.
Yeah, yeah. And again, like I think it's like nice chemistry, with high-low passing, Bobby, Giannis, Brooke. I mean, all those guys, we don't obviously think of Brooke and Bobby as passers, but those guys, I think, have really tried to be a bit more conscientious about looking for one another, in the dunker spot, especially when, there's like a 2-on-1 situation and trying to make plays, even if they're never going to be great passers. So yeah, I mean, and again, like as you said, when I was referring to that run, when we're talking about Dame, that run they made in the second quarter with Giannis out, Bobby was a part of that. I mean, it was like, cornerback reading a cornerback reading a quarterback's eyes on that pickoff that he had. It felt like he started like running to pick off the pass. It was just like, man, you got to read what Bobby's doing there. You got to make a better pass than that. But yeah, he stole that. And I will say this, Bobby Portis never dunks on anyone, and that continued tonight. 6'10", 6'11" guy going in for an well, it was contested from behind a little bit, but going in for the layup, it's like, okay, Bobby's still not dunking on guys even from when they're coming from behind. And then he hit us with the little money, the double money sign, the old Thon Maker. Remember when Thon Maker did
Thon
that?
did do that.
Thon did that, like rookie year Thon when he was hitting threes. Go to the little
We had
money.
such high hopes for Thon at that point.
Yeah, Moneymaker was good. I don't know, speculation about whether that was like pay me, extend me, or money. I don't know. Whatever it was, Bobby was happy. Although I will say this, I thought Nick Nurse made a great adjustment. They started doubling Bobby on the ball in the second half. I don't know if it was the second quarter or second half, but like that kind of, to me, that seemed like it kind of took Bobby largely out of the game because there are a couple of reasons why you double team a guy. One, because he's killing you and you need to get the ball out of his hands, or two, because you think he's not a good passer and he's going to turn it over. And fortunately, it was a little bit of both. And that kind of slowed Bobby's scoring down. I think he had like 4 points after the first quarter or after early in the second or something. So his scoring really slowed down sort of as the game went on. And he had a couple turnovers off of like basically the Sixers kind of getting pressure on him and forcing him to make plays. So, we still see some limitations on his part. Yeah, he had 4 turnovers, which is not great for your backup, third big man. But overall, really hard to complain too much. Every guy on the Bucks roster has a positive plus minus tonight. You love to see it, Camille.
Yeah.
And Pat Connaughton, who, I think I said was the biggest winner of the Bucks
Preseason.
preseason.
Yep.
I thought similar first half. I think he had 7 of his 9 points in the first half. Remember, it took like 3 months for him to get his first dunk last year. After all
Yeah.
of the talk about him trying to get back to his
Morris
athleticism and
Minnick
stuff,
and everything like that.
and then he didn't get a dunk for like 3 months. And tonight, great cut for a dunk. I forget who gave him a nice pass, but he threw down a 2-handed dunk. You could call it a poster. I forget which defender, if it was Drummond or who came over, but they were like late coming
It was
over.
late. Yeah.
But if you snapped the photograph, Camille, it looked like Pat Connaughton was dunking on a dude. So shout out to Pat. You got your first dunk out of the way early this year. And I just think he's been playing. He's just kind of been back to kind of playing winning basketball and hit a 3 early tonight. And yeah, if he missed a couple in the second half, no harm, no foul. Bucks were fine. So look, we know Doc likes Pat. So
Yeah.
it's really important that Pat play well because he's going to be playing people. You may not like it, but you're a much bigger wrestling fan than I am, Camille.
Mhm.
But you know the Randy Savage gif where it's like, you might not like it, but accept it, or whatever he
Yeah.
says. Like that's kind of like what I feel like we need to tell Bucks fans. Like, you may not like Pat Connaughton getting a lot of minutes,
Yeah.
but accept it and hope that he at least plays better this year than he did last year.
He
And
almost had one of those flybys too. When I was like, it was like ingrained in him to try to contest by like doing the jump flyby, but he like halfway through realized like, I'm not supposed to do this in this particular defense. He kind of tried to stop, didn't all the way stop, but at least he didn't fly all the way by. So I was like, there's some progress there for Pat as well.
he did have a block. I don't remember his block tonight, but he did have a block, and no turnovers. Also, Gary Trent and Taurean Prince, love to see no turnovers from those guys. Trent had 5 fouls, but no turnovers. That's what those guys do well. They just catch it and shoot it. They don't screw around with the ball. And Pat kind of also following suit tonight. So yeah, I mean, I don't think there was any real surprise in the rotation. We can talk about who we did and didn't see, but Bobby, Pat, I think we're first off the bench.
Yep.
DeLon, obviously we knew DeLon Wright was going to play, because he's the only real backup point guard that you have.
Saw
But
AJ for a quick second at the end of the first, but not much after that, or at all after that.
Yeah, 4 minutes. But for the most part, it was really an 8-man rotation. It was Bobby 26 minutes, Pat 21, DeLon Wright 13. I think you'd ideally like to see DeLon play more. Dame playing 38 minutes tonight was a little bit like, that seems a lot. He played almost the entire first and third quarters, which is interesting. We saw it last year that he eventually with Griff, he kind of campaigned his way into playing the entire first quarter because it's something he was used to. So we'll kind of see how that evolves, but obviously you don't want to get in the habit of playing Dame 38 minutes every night. Brooke playing 36 minutes also, like
a little high.
But part of that is like if you're only playing a 3-man big rotation and you're not playing like Giannis small lineups, then you can pretty much add up the Brooke, Giannis, Bobby minutes, and it's going to basically account for all of those 4 or 5 minutes for the most part. So yeah, we'll kind of see. Again, ideally kind of cut those down a little bit. But I don't know. I mean, overall, Camille, like,
it's a good start.
Yeah, I mean, and again, people want to, especially like when you look at like Chris, people talk about like, I don't worry about early season. Obviously I get it why people want to play the long game with health and things like that. But Camille, there's a reason we podcast after every damn game. Okay. We think these games matter. Okay.
Yeah.
like banking wins, like just kind of think about it, guys, right? Like think about the margin of error that last year the East came down to, right? How many teams were at 47 wins, right? The Bucks were at 49.
Yeah, it came down to the last day of the season.
It came down to the last game of the season. And to bank a win on the road against a team that you are going to be potentially battling all year long in the standings, I mean, again, like you can't look at this, especially with the injuries on the Philly side, and say that like, oh, this is like, indicative of what's going to happen in April, May, and June. But man, it's important to just bank wins. It's important to get wins. And I don't know. I tend to I don't know how you feel about this, Camille. Like I get people saying like, I don't care about the regular season as long as Giannis is healthy. Give me the 6th seed, whatever. Like, I'll deal with it. I don't feel that way. Like, I don't think the Bucks have the margin of error to just screw around for 82 games, go in as a 6 seed, and then
let the chips fall where they may at that
yeah,
point.
and then win every series on the road. Like I think this team to compete in the playoffs the way that we want them to, they're going to need things to break their way, and I think they're going to have to be, again, probably top 3 seed ideally top 2 seed, right? So you have 2 rounds of home court. So I think a game like this matters, and again, you're not going to get credit for the
No,
game because of who's missing, but that just makes it all the more important that you check the box, show up, finish, do your work, and go home with a win. And
yeah.
I feel, again, I'm not saying there's, light up the victory cigars, but I feel great, Camille. Game 1 of 82 in the books with a win. Everybody's, nobody got hurt.
Yeah.
Perfect. I'm happy.
I feel you on that one. And to your point about people are going to point out the fact that there was no Embiid, there was no Paul George. What do you really take from this? What you take from this is that the Bucks handled business. Like this wasn't the case of what you would see sometimes last year, where it's a short-handed team and they're taking the Bucks to the limit after the first quarter of
Oh
this game.
God, Memphis Grizzlies. I'm having Memphis Grizzlies
Listen,
flashbacks,
there were
Camille.
a few of those. I still can't believe they lost to the Wizards last year, but this is
Oh
what you
man.
want to see from this team this year. You want to see them taking care of business. You want to see the focus being on them and how they're running their sets and how they're getting better. So to your point, hey, listen, we're 1-0. 1-0. Never lost. So we're going to take that energy throughout the day. And I think that's a good spot to end because we want to know. We are 1-0. So again, y'all, if you have not subscribed to the Locked On Bucks newsletter, make sure that you check that out. It comes to you every day, Monday through Friday. You'll get a summary of what happened on Locked On Bucks plus other national NBA news. So make sure y'all check that out. Subscribe, lockedondaily.com. I'll make sure to keep it in our description as well so you guys can sign up for that. But for Frank and myself, we are out of here and we 1-0. So can't ask for a better start than that. We'll talk to y'all soon.